Well, here in Michigan, there is an effort to make similar changes that would allow victims here to bring sexual assault cases to court. Joining us now is Julie Brixie, state representative from Meridian Township. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Happy to be on this morning with you.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. Can you tell us a little bit about this legislation? We'll break it down. Let's talk first about the issue of extending the statute of limitations on legal claims, where we're at, where you think we should be, and why.
Sure. So Michigan's statute of limitations for criminal sexual conduct is among the narrowest in the entire country, and it's really failed survivors and shielded and harbored serial predators for far too long. One of the things that happens, especially in child sex abuse, is that survivors are often really hesitant to disclose their abuse, and in large part it's due to the narrow window of statute of limitations. So there's a lot of research in this area that has shown that the average age for a childhood sexual abuse survivor to report that abuse is 52 years old. And so the challenging and often re-traumatizing criminal justice system kind of can contribute to this delayed disclosure phenomenon. And it can really discourage survivors from ever coming forward to report their abuse because the statute of limitations expires.
So how narrow is ours, and where would you like it to move to?
So my legislation, which I want to emphasize, is very similar, nearly identical to legislation that passed the super Republican majority controlled Senate in 2018. It raises the statute of limitation from age 28 to 52. And remember, 52 is the average age, so there's still a lot of people who aren't going to be able to come forward. And for me, I have the confidence in our court system that they can sort out, the facts of the case and come to fair and equitable administrations of justice throughout this process.
Is this a bigger issue for young victims, or is it for victims of all ages that are hesitant to report?
It's really for survivors of all ages, but especially child survivors. And one of the things I think it's very important to folks to realize, anybody who's a parent probably knows that the human brain isn't fully developed with respect to executive function until about age 25. So those of us who have kids in their late teens and early 20s know that there isn't the full maturity there. And so even though childhood technically ends at age 18, really until you're 25 you're not fully an adult, and that's the age from infancy to age 25 is a huge part of the age of people who are victims of sexual assault.
Are you getting much pushback on that part of the legislation, on the statute of limitations?
That was the pushback in 2018. And at that time, when it became apparent that Larry Nassar had committed heinous crimes repeatedly and was getting away with it, the legislature did step in and create a revival window, which allows people whose statute of limitations have expired to come back and make a claim against their abuser. So, but those 2018 reforms created the narrowest revival window in the entire country, and we're the only state that restricts access to justice based on the occupation of your abuser rather than what the crime being committed was. And so this legislation that we're introducing would fix that. states all over the nation are moving in the direction of criminal justice reform with respect to statute of limitations, and it's because there's been quite a bit of research done that shows this delayed disclosure phenomenon. And, you know, if we want to make sure that people like Anderson from U of M and Nassar from MSU aren't allowed to be harbored by our own laws, we have to change those laws to accommodate when people come forward to disclose the abuse.
Let's talk about limiting governmental immunity in some circumstances.
Sure.
What would those circumstances be?
So the package of bills would eliminate governmental immunity in some circumstances when criminal sexual conduct is involved. So if the governmental unit or employee knew or should have known that the perpetrator had committed a prior act of criminal sexual conduct and the agency or employee failed to act or intervene to prevent subsequent acts of criminal sexual conduct, then, you know, that would apply. And, you know, what we see happening is that pedophiles are really horrible monsters, and they're usually serial predators, and they put themselves in positions to be able to have authority over children and have the ability to take advantage of that. And it's really important for governmental institutions, employers of any kind, to take any accusations of impropriety really very seriously, because of the manner in which these folks just continuously repeat and reoffend.
You want a survivor's Bill of Rights. What would that look like?
So as we learn more about the trauma of sexual assault, we also learn how to behave to the survivors of sexual assault in a way that will not re-traumatize them, but help them. And so a couple of things in the Survivor Bill of Rights. This is a new package of legislation. This hasn't been introduced before. And we worked with an organization called RISE. That's a nonprofit. That's a nationwide organization. And the Survivor's Bill of Rights would include the ability to have an attorney and support person of the survivor's choice available to them throughout the reporting process, throughout the forensic exam. It would give some clarity to how the forensic exam kits are handled after they're taken, allowing the survivor to have control over whether or when those forensics exams are tested, and inform them of, after they've been submitted for testing, inform them of what the status is on the testing of those kits.
All right, Julie Brixie, State Representative, Meridian Township, thanks for being here. Let us know if this legislation makes it through. We appreciate your time.
Great, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, your calls are